Okay, I wanted to create another video for you to talk about Portfolio Part 3. All of you should have received your feedback on Portfolio Part 2 by now. If you have any questions about that, please email me. I might address some of your questions here in this video, otherwise let me know. So let's see, I'm going to pop up the calendar. Portfolio Part 3 should be due on the 23rd by noon. I believe that's correct. We just finished week 5, week 6 ahead. End of week 6 should be noon on the 23rd. And just to make sure, let's scroll down here and find it. Week 6. Upload portfolio project part 3. What happens when I click on that? Due Sunday the 23rd at noon. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Some of you may have forgotten when you did your outline for the part 2 that I had given you a rubric. So I'm going to scroll down here to week 2, and I had provided you a video and a rubric, one that you can view here online, one that you can download in Word format. Right now we're looking at Beacon Learning in instructor view, so you can see some things that are grayed out. This one right here is my Excel version that I use to actually do the calculation. Same exact file as what you guys can download. And I'll show you how that works in a little bit here. But you had a video and you have this rubric that shows you what was required for the outline going forward for your portfolio. Here's the things that need to be included in it. So my feedback for part 2 had been, that this didn't necessarily follow the instructions from the syllabus. So I'm going to pop up the syllabus now, and before we get to the instructions, I want to point out something that's very critical and some have been confused about in the past. This little asterisk down here below the grades talks about the minimum required score for this final draft of the portfolio. So your rough draft part 3, this doesn't apply to, but your final draft part 4 at the end of the course has to at least be B plus quality. Now what that means is, I state further down that you have to have a publication quality product, which means the grammar is impeccable and the format is impeccable. When you give me the rough draft, I'm going to provide you feedback on those things. All of you have seen my level of detail and, hey, you need a space between here and here, or etc. That's the kind of detail that we're talking about on the format and the grammar. The content isn't publication quality because you're not going into some peer-reviewed journal on your assessment of Novel Connect's leadership. So that doesn't have to be impeccable. Therefore, you could get as low as a B plus in the paper itself and still have a publication quality, and it would still pass. If it's less than a B plus, and I don't have that open. Here it is right here. So less than 87%, then you're going to receive a grade of an I for the course. Now what that means is it's incomplete, and you have 30 days from the last day of the course, that's the academic policy of the institution, and during that 30 days you need to address whatever quality problems I define in the final draft to raise the level up to at least a B plus. If you don't get at least an 87 by the end of that 30 days, then you will not receive a passing grade for the course. You will receive whatever the minimum non-passing grade is for the course. Or excuse me, whatever the maximum non-passing grade, unless you actually earned less than that, in which case you'll receive whatever grade you earned. So, therefore, because of this requirement, that's why I set this whole thing up. Week 2, let's work on format. Week 4, let's work on what's your content we're going to look like. Week 6, give me a completed product so that we can address any of those quality problems, so that by week 8, you've got all of the feedback on the quality problems, you've implemented those, and you have a publication quality product. You don't want to go past week 8 on this course, and I don't want you to go past week 8 on this course. So that's why I'm stressing prior to the rough draft where we're going with this. You want the rough draft to be as high quality as possible so that we can just identify whatever needs to be corrected and get that fixed in the final draft so that we can finish the class together. Again, any questions on that, please let me know. So now I'm going to move from here, and I'm going to point out something about the way I formatted this document, and it's the same way as the not template, what's the word I want? The DOT file. Yeah, it's template file. The Word APA template file that I provided for you on Beacon Learning has styles built into it. And the styles that were provided in there have levels. And each of these over here in this table of contents, essentially, is a level. So this would be a first level, this would be a second level. And you see, as I'm clicking on these, it's moving to that spot in the document. More importantly is I can actually use this. Word will automatically insert a table of contents from the information stored in these styles. So for those of you that are making your own styles, and I can look and I can see over here in your navigation pane that it's empty, you didn't use any levels, that's fine. I'm not going to grade you down for that. I'm just pointing this out to you as a future tool in Microsoft Word, especially when you get to, I think it's 690 is going to be the final portfolio class where you're assembling all your components of your portfolio together. You will probably have to have a table of contents in that class. We haven't finished writing the manual yet for what's required on that completed portfolio, but it's probably going to have a table of contents. If you learn to use this tool, then your table of contents will be a lot easier to create. Anyway, so I'm going to push here to go down to the portfolio project, scroll down here to part 3 and 4. Part 3 is the rough draft, due at the end of week 6, 125 points. What you're writing into that is described here in part 4. Okay, so this information right here is what some of you may have missed in your outlines when you put that together for part 2, and this information right here is also what is included in the rubric, again, that I showed you here on week 2. Is where I first introduced the idea of the rubric. So make sure that when you're writing this rough draft here that you're taking into consideration all of this information here, all the way down through here. So I think that beats that up. So I'm going to take you to my version of the rubric, the Excel, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to assess this stuff that's highlighted. So here in the introduction, I'm saying you've got these different categories. I could give you a 1, 2, or 3 if it's incomplete. I could give you a 9 or a 10 if it's exemplary, or I could give you a partial grade, so 9.5. You know, it was very well done, but you know there was a slight deficiency, but not enough that I'm going to knock you down to 90%. I'm going to take you back to Word and the grading breakdown and see. I'm going to say, well, it wasn't a perfect paper. It wasn't a 100%, but it was still an A, so I'm going to give you a 95 instead of a 100. Well, that's what I did right there. It's not 100, but it's not an A, so I'll make sure I'll give you an A, and I'll give you 9.5. Okay, so I go down here, and you know it's only. Can I put an 8.5 in there? I'm not sure what it'll let me do. Yeah, it will. Etc. So I'm, you know, if you miss this one completely, I might give you a 1.5 here. You didn't have any, you completely missed the support, but you kind of had some supporting information up here in the evaluation. You know, you might still get some points for that even if you left it out. Your conclusion was pretty good, but given the lack of support that you had up above, you really didn't have much of a conclusion either. Your grammar was very good, but you had 3 or 4 errors. So maybe I'll only give you a 7 if you had 3 or 4 errors, but they were really minor, so I'm not going to drop you all the way down to a 60. 60%, again, let's go back to here. 60% would be, where are we? The bottom of the D- scale. Well, you made several errors, but they were pretty minor errors. So I'm not going to ding you a lot. And then on the format, the APA format, I've beat you up, and so you've pretty much got that, but you still had 3 little minor errors. You had a period in the wrong spot, you had a capitalization in a article name inside a periodical in your reference. Okay, so there. Now, what I've done through all of these is I got 9.5 out of 10% is 9.5%. I got 8.5 out of 20% gives you 17 more percent. So you started with 9.5%, you're going to add 17%. Then you're going to add 4.5%, et cetera, et cetera. So when I get down here, there's the 9.5, there's the 17, there's the 4.5. I add all of those up out of 100, and unfortunately, you only got 16.5% out of that paper. Up here you see there's 150 total points available on this assignment. So 150 times 60.5% would mean that you earned 90.75 points out of the 150 points available on that assignment. So that's the way I would grade it. I know all of you will get a better grade than that, so we won't beat that up any longer. Once, obviously when I've graded that, it means you've already turned it in. I'm going to scroll all the way down to week 6 first. So there's where you're going to upload part 3, just like normal. Again, I'm going to use the rubric for the rough draft, but it's not going to be, again, that B+ requirement like in the final. But I'm going to use it because I want you familiar with it. So there's where you're going to upload your part 3 into this week. I'm going to scroll down to part 8. This, for those of you that have done this before, you realize that the final gets uploaded to TaskStream. The reason for that is that this is what we call a signature assignment. It's one of the key assignments for our program, and so we track our signature assignments. That's what happens on this TaskStream. I've got it still grayed out, so when you guys view this in yours, this is going to be grayed out because I haven't yet built the assignment into TaskStream and I haven't yet uploaded the rubric into TaskStream. As soon as I've done that, then I can make this visible and you guys will be able to upload your part 4 from there. But for this week, there's your upload. I think I've clarified what you're going to be required to do, and if you have any questions about any of that, please let me know. Thank you.